Samsung is warning its customers about conversations near the tech-savvy television sets. It's a privacy policy statement from Samsung that says, quote, "Please be aware that if your spoken words include personal or other sensitive information, that information will be among the data captured and transmitted to a third party through their use of voice recognition." That's right, your TV is listening to you, if not watching you. How big a deal is this? Consumer Protection Counsel for the Electronic Privacy Information Center, Julia Horwitz, in Washington, D.C. Also with us, Bloomberg contributing editor and SK Ventures partner Paul Kedrosky. Let me start with you, Julian. What am I to make of this smart TV watching me, listening to me?
Well, it's pretty simple. If you're watching TV, TV should not be watching you back.
Okay. Well, I don't know. It's nice for everyone to chip in a little bit. No, is this a serious concern?
I think it's a concern because Samsung should not be collecting personal data from people who are watching television for at least two reasons. The first is that it's unnecessary. There could easily be privacy-enhancing technologies built in that would eliminate or minimize at least the need to collect this personal data from consumers. And the second is that consumers, like the companies, don't know what's going to happen to the data after it's collected.
Kedrosky, what are you doing in front of your TV you don't want people to see?
Everything possible. I like to stand there and recite my Social Security number as often as possible. Is that wrong?
Apparently so. No, is this, look, the smart TV, the TV that gathers information, big data, artificial intelligence, have we reached a point where we got to start being concerned about our devices watching us and or the businesses that might create?
No, we should always be concerned. I just think that, the question here is, you kind of have to break it down. Is the objection that, not just to step away from Samsung for a second, but is the objection that connected devices use voice recognition? So let's start there. Is that the objection? I don't think that's the objection because, we all seem to be in favor of the idea that our devices can listen to us and do things based on the words we speak. So then the question is what is the objection that the words we speak are sometimes relayed outside of the device? Well, I would hope that's not the objection because that's the essence of cloud services. Whenever you want to process voice, it often happens through a third party. In this case specifically, it sounds like it was Nuance, where the information, your voice data, is being transmitted to Nuance, which happens to have great voice recognition technology. And that's no different than what happens with Google or happens with Apple with Siri. The information gets relayed there. So is that the objection? I don't think that's the objection here. So then is the objection, how good of a job they're doing anonymizing the data? And, and that's a perfectly legitimate concern. I just think people, privacy advocates and others in general, and Samsung has done a poor job of this, have really kind of muddled the argument. What are we exactly objecting to here? It's really not clear to me because it's certainly, I don't think, the objection isn't that somehow devices in our homes can act on voice commands, because if that's the objection, people should go back to living in caves.
There was some time between voice command TVs and caves, but all right. Julia, is the ultimate issue here companies have to think about the anonymization of this data, or is there a point at which they won't be able to collect it in certain ways, like Siri or like a TV?
Well, I think I would just like to correct something that Paul said, which is that the issue is not anonymization. It's certainly not the use of new technologies. I think that the real issue is the use of, is overcollection and not careful planning. So companies that don't know what use they're going to put to data that they collect should not be over-collecting in this way.
Yeah, Paul, I think it is interesting. No, go ahead. Well, I think it's interesting, Paul, that lots of companies that never thought they would be in an arena where they've got to think about anonymizing data, right? Collection of cloud data of random things that their customers are doing, saying, whatever. Now have to think about issues of privacy, right. And all kinds of companies have to worry about privacy that never thought they would.
For sure. And, and Apple had this issue a year or so ago with respect to data retention policies around Siri voice data. How long do they keep it? How is it tied to the users? When does it become fully disconnected from even a randomized ID attached to users? These are all legitimate questions. I totally get that. But my issue is with respect to this notion, and it's a very broad term, and I really don't know what it means, but this notion of over-collection, the whole notion of natural language interfaces, whenever you're dealing with devices is you listen because you're not exactly sure where in your user user's statement the actual command resides. People don't speak in these kinds of barked out, turn on, watch Bloomberg. People don't talk like that, and they don't want to talk like that to their devices. And so as a result, devices have to listen through a whole set of expressions trying to figure out which one of those are commands for the television. And if that constitutes the boundary, when that becomes over-harvesting when you actually introduce natural language interfaces, we're kind of screwed, because we're not going to be able to introduce anything that isn't sort of, more complex than, turn on, turn off, watch Bloomberg, or whatever else, which is sort of a nonsensical position to take.
I don't know. I think this is going to get interesting. I mean, I'm just thinking about TVs in hotel rooms or TVs when you walk down the street. I don't know. This is an interesting story. It affects a lot of companies and a lot of important people. People like Paul Kedrosky, thank you very much, as well as Julia Horwitz of the Epic Consumer Protection Council. Thank you very much.